The doorbell rang on a Thursday morning. I opened it to find a young woman I had never seen before. "I am Emily," she said. "I am Michael's daughter." I had not heard my son's name spoken out loud in 25 years. Not since the morning I found my husband on the floor, the safe behind him, hanging open empty. Every penny we had saved for 18 years gone. My son gone with it. My husband died 3 days later. Heart attack, never woke up. And Michael never came back, never called, never explained, just vanished like he had never existed. Now his daughter was standing on my doorstep. "He died last month," she said. "Before he died, he told me everything. And he gave me this." She held up a key, small silver ordinary. "What is that?" I asked. "He said you deserve to know the truth about why he left, about where he has been, about what he has been doing all these years." I stared at this girl with my dead husband's eyes. "He spent his whole life trying to tell you something," she said. "This key opens it." I took the key from her hand. By the time I used it, everything I had believed for over 20 years was about to shatter. My name is Helen Grant. I am 67 years old, and this is my story. We are creating a community of people who know that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now back to the story. The doorbell rang at 9:42 a.m. I almost did not answer. I never get visitors. Usually it is someone selling security systems or asking if I have considered solar panels, but it rang again, insistent. So I checked the window. A young woman stood on my doorstep. Early 20s, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, worn backpack over one shoulder. She did not look like a salesperson. She looked nervous. I opened the door partway. "Can I help you?" She stared at me for a moment, opened her mouth, closed. It tried again. "Are you Helen Grant?" Something about her face looked familiar. The way she stood. Maybe. The shape of her jaw. Who is asking? "I am Emily Grant." She paused, swallowed. "I am Michael's daughter." My hand tightened on the doorknob. The world narrowed to just her face, and I saw it now. Those eyes, Robert's eyes, the exact same shade of brown, looking back at me. "Come inside," I heard myself say. She followed me into my apartment. Small place, 1 bedroom, neat but worn. I have lived here 12 years, long enough that I do not really see it anymore. We ended up at the kitchen table without discussing it. I offered coffee because I needed something to do with my hands. She nodded. I poured 2 cups while she sat setting her backpack carefully at her feet. My morning's work was still spread across the table: client invoices, calculator, red pen, where I had been circling discrepancies. I pushed them aside and sat down across from her. She wrapped both hands around the coffee mug like she was cold. "He died last month." I waited. Did not ask who. Already knew. "Cancer," she said. "Pancreatic. He was sick almost a year." The news landed flat. I had already mourned my son. I did it over 20 years ago when he emptied our safe and disappeared. You cannot grieve someone twice. Before he died, Emily continued, not meeting my eyes. "In the hospital, he told me things." My voice came out harder than I meant it to. "What kind of things?" "About me. About what happened. Why he left. What happened is he emptied our safe and disappeared." She flinched, but did not look away. Instead, she reached into her backpack and pulled out a small silver key, setting it on the table between us next to my calculator and red pen. It was a standard storage unit key. The number 315 was stamped on the side. "He made me promise to find you," she said quietly, "to give you this." I stared at the key sitting on my kitchen table, small and silver and ordinary. "There is a storage unit," Emily said. Here in Tucson, he said everything is there. Everything. What he took, why he really left, all of it. I picked up the key. It was cold in my palm, lighter than I expected. I had not seen my son in over 2 decades. Had not heard his voice. Had not known if he was alive or dead, or thought about me at all. Now, he was dead, and this girl was sitting in my kitchen. This girl, with my husband's eyes and my son's last name holding answers I had stopped wanting years ago. Emily said quietly, "He wanted you to know the truth. Said you deserved that much." I turned the key over in my fingers. The metal warmed slightly against my skin. Truth. After all this time, I was not sure I even wanted the truth. Truth would not bring back. Robert would not give me back those years of working 3 jobs and eating ramen and washing my clothes in the bathtub when the laundromat was too expensive. But my granddaughter was sitting across from me, waiting for me to say something. I closed my fist around the key. "Where is this storage unit?" Emily pulled out her phone and showed me the address. "It is about 15 minutes from here off Valencia Road." I nodded, but did not really process it. My mind had already gone somewhere else. Back to that spring when the safe was first emptied. When I learned what betrayal felt like. I was 42 then. Robert was 62. Still strong, still working 6 days a week. We owned Pierce Family Diner, a small restaurant on Broadway Boulevard. 20 tables always busy. The smell of carnitas and fresh tortillas filling the air from opening to close. We built that place from nothing, years of 7-day weeks, burnt hands, and learning to smile at customers even when we wanted to collapse. Robert did all the cooking. I managed the front of the house and kept the books. Our son Michael worked there too, had since he finished high school. He was 22 good with customers showed up on time, never complained about the long hours. We were a family. That is what I thought, anyway. Robert kept cash in a safe in the back office. It was an old habit from growing up poor in Monterrey, Nuevo León. His family had lost their savings when a bank collapsed during his childhood. After that, he never trusted them. "This I can see," he would say, patting the safe. "This I can touch." I argued with him about it. I told him banks were safer now that keeping that much cash was dangerous. But he was stubborn. Every week he would skim a little extra from the register, add it to the safe. $50 here, $100 there. Over 15 years it added up, $300,000 organized in labeled envelopes. Robert's careful handwriting marked what each stack was for. Supplier payments, payroll emergency fund, and the biggest envelope, the one we added to every month, building fund. We had been renting the restaurant space for all those years. The landlord had promised to sell it to us when we saved enough. We were finally close. Robert taught Michael the combination when he turned 21. I remember him doing it, calling Michael into the office, writing the numbers on a scrap of paper. "In case something happens to me," he had said, "you need to be able to take care of your mother." Michael had nodded seriously, memorizing the numbers, then throwing the paper away like his father told him to. That morning started normal. Robert went to the office early to get cash for our suppliers. We had a big delivery coming. I was in the kitchen prepping vegetables, radio playing Norteo music, already warm, even though we would not open for another 2 hours. Then I heard something fall, a heavy thud from the back office. I found him on the floor. His face was gray, twisted, one hand clutching his chest. Behind him, the safe door hung open, completely empty. I do not remember much of what happened next. Calling 911, holding his hand, the paramedics loading him into the ambulance. The hospital waiting room with its fluorescent lights and smell of disinfectant and people crying in corners. They kept him on machines for 3 days, breathing for him, his heart beating only because they made it beat. The doctors kept using words like catastrophic and irreversible damage. They were preparing me, I realized later, telling me he was not coming back. I called Michael's phone over and over. Voicemail every time. I went to his apartment on the second day. The landlord let me in after I explained about Robert. Everything was still there. His clothes in the closet dishes, in the sink bed, unmade, like he had just gotten up, but Michael was gone. His car was gone from the parking spot. It looked like he had left for work and never came back. The police came to the hospital on the third day, asked questions about the safe. Who knew the combination? When I had last seen Michael, their faces were sympathetic but knowing. Only 3 people knew that combination. Robert, me, and Michael. Robert died that afternoon without waking up. The machines kept beeping, and then suddenly, they did not, and the doctor was saying something about time of death. And I was signing papers I did not read. The funeral was small. The restaurant community came. Other business owners we knew, but the gossip had already started. People knew about the empty safe, about Michael disappearing. They stopped meeting my eyes. Conversations died when I walked up. The ones who stayed kind were worse somehow. Their pity sat on me like weight. I had to sell the restaurant to cover Robert's medical bills and funeral costs. I sold it fast for less than it was worth to someone who changed the name within a month. I moved into a cheap apartment, started working 3 jobs, hotel housekeeping in the mornings, retail in the afternoons, bookkeeping in the evenings for anyone who would hire me. It took years to climb back to something resembling stable ground. Years of night shifts and ramen dinners and doing laundry in the bathtub when the laundromat felt too expensive. I built a small life, kept my head down, stopped expecting much. The anger settled in, slowly became part of the furniture. I would wake up angry, go to bed angry, carry it with me like an extra weight in my chest. My son had stolen everything and run. That was what I believed. That was what everyone believed. Emily's voice pulled me back. "Are you okay?" I blinked. My kitchen came back into focus. The coffee had gone cold in my mug. The key was still in my hand, warming against my palm. "I spent over 20 years thinking I knew exactly what my son did," I said. My voice came out rough. "Now you are telling me I was wrong." Emily looked down at her coffee. "I do not know if you were wrong. I just know there is more to the story. He told me that much before he died." I stood up, legs stiff from sitting, carried my mug to the sink, and poured the cold coffee down the drain. When I turned back, Emily was watching me with those eyes, Robert's eyes. "We should go," I said to the storage unit. "If there is something there, I need to see. Let us get it over with." She nodded and grabbed her backpack. I picked up my purse and keys, checking that the storage unit key was still in my hand. It was. We would go see what Michael left behind. After all this time, I would finally know why my son destroyed us. Or at least, that was what I told myself. Part of me was not sure I wanted to know at all. I stopped at the door, hand on the knob. Emily was behind me with her backpack waiting, but I could not make myself turn that knob. I was about to get in a car with someone I had never met, someone who claimed to be my granddaughter. Drive to a storage unit to look at whatever my dead son had left behind. I turned around. "Wait." Emily looked at me uncertain. "Before we go, I said I need to know more about you. About him." She nodded slowly. We stood there in my narrow entryway for a moment. Then she moved back toward the kitchen table. I followed. We sat back down in the same chairs we had just left. "Tell me about yourself," I said. "Tell me about Michael." Emily set her backpack on the floor, wrapped her hands together on the table. "I grew up in Nogales, just me and him. Small apartment near Colonia Centro. Your mother?" "She left when I was 3. Moved back to her family somewhere in Chihuahua. I do not really remember her, just the 2 of us then, like me alone. But at least I had my father." What was he like? The question came out rougher than I meant. Emily looked down at her hands. Sad. He was always sad. But he was there, you know. Every morning, he would make breakfast before work. Every night, he would help with my homework. He came to every parent-teacher meeting, every school event, even when he was exhausted from work. What did he do? Construction, mostly commercial buildings. He would come home covered in dust hands, all torn up, but he never missed a day unless he was really sick. I tried to picture my son as a construction worker 22, when he left strong, and young, 47 when he died those years in between working with his hands raising a daughter alone. Did he ever talk about us? I asked. About me and his father? Emily nodded. Not often, but sometimes he would tell me stories about the restaurant, about learning to cook from his dad, about you keeping the books, how you could always find a mistake just by looking at the numbers. Something twisted in my chest. He had remembered those things. When I was little, maybe 10, he showed me a photo from his wallet. A woman standing in front of a restaurant smiling. He said, "This is your grandmother, Helen Grant." That is it. Just your name. He never explained why I did not know about you, no. I asked. He would just get quiet, change the subject. I learned to stop asking. We sat in silence for a moment. I watched this girl who had Robert's eyes and Michael's jawline, and some echo of myself I could not quite place. What did he tell you? I asked. Before he died in the hospital. Emily's face tightened. He got sick last year. Pancreatic cancer stage 4. The doctor said 6 months. He made it 11 months of dying. I wondered if he had been scared, if he had been in pain, if he had thought about calling me. He kept working almost until the end. Emily continued, did not want to stop, said he had things to finish. The last week he was in the hospital, they had given him so much morphine, he barely knew where he was. But one night, around 2 hours in the morning, he woke up, lucid, grabbed my hand so hard it hurt. Emily's voice got quieter. He said, I need to tell you something before I cannot anymore. And he told me about you, about Tucson, about a storage unit with a key he had kept hidden. He made me memorize the address. Made me promise I would find you. Did he tell you why he left? Not really, just that something happened that he had to leave. That he has been carrying it all these years and he needed you to know the truth. The truth, I said flatly. He had over 20 years to tell me the truth. He said he could not. Said he was too ashamed. The word hit wrong. Ashamed. He should have been ashamed. He emptied our safe and disappeared. His father died, thinking he had been betrayed by his own son. Emily flinched, but held my gaze. He died knowing that too, knowing what it did to his father. It is part of what killed him. I think cancer killed him, maybe. But he carried so much guilt. It was like watching someone drown slowly. I looked away out the kitchen window at the apartment building across the street. I tried to feel something other than anger. I could not quite manage it. How did you get here? I asked, changing the subject. From Nogales. Bus to the border, walked across. Another bus from Sierra Vista. She paused. Took about 5 hours total. Where are you staying? Hostel downtown. It is cheap. I studied her worn jacket, the frayed backpack, the exhaustion sitting in her shoulders. She had spent 5 hours on buses to bring me a key from a father who had just died. I made a decision before I could overthink it. You can stay here tonight. The couch pulls out. Her eyes widened. You do not have to do that. I know I do not, but you came all this way. I hesitated, then finished. And you are family whether I like it or not. Something shifted in her expression. Relief, maybe, or gratitude? Thank you. she said quietly. I stood up, picked up my purse from where I had set it on the counter. Let us go to the storage unit. If there is something there I need to see, we should get it over with. Emily grabbed her backpack and followed me to the door. This time, I did not hesitate. I turned the knob, stepped out into the hallway, locked the door behind us. My car was in the parking lot, an aging Honda that burned oil and made concerning noises when I turned left. Emily got in the passenger seat without comment. I started the engine, pulled up the address on my phone. 15 minutes, the map said. 15 minutes to whatever Michael had left behind. Emily was quiet as I drove, looking out the window at the city she had probably never seen from this angle. I focused on the road, on the familiar streets turning unfamiliar as we headed toward the industrial area near Valencia Road. The storage facility appeared on our right. Chain-link fence, orange doors in long rows, the kind of place where people keep things they do not have room for, or things they want to forget about. I pulled into the parking lot, cut the engine. The key was in my pocket, small and heavy. Emily looked at me. Ready I was not, but I nodded anyway. We got out of the car and walked toward the office. The manager barely looked up when we walked into the office. He pushed a clipboard across the counter pin attached by a chain. I signed my name. Emily's signed hers underneath. He handed me a small map of the facility. Unit 3114 circled in red marker. Back corner, he said, already looking back at his phone. Lock it when you are done. We walked out into the heat. Rows of orange doors stretched in front of us, identical and numbered. The sun bounced off the metal, making everything shimmer. Emily walked beside me, quiet. Both of us following the path between the units. Unit 3114 was at the far end, tucked into the corner, like it was hiding. I stopped in front of it, key in my hand. My palm was sweating. The metal was slick. You okay? Emily asked. I was not, but I nodded and fitted the key into the lock. It clicked. I pulled the door up. The metal screamed on its rails, the sound echoing off the concrete. The door rolled up and open, revealing darkness inside. I stepped into the unit. It was small, maybe 8 by 10 feet. Dim light from the corridor behind us was the only illumination. Dust motes floated in the air. The space smelled like cardboard and metal and time. Against the back wall sat a dark green safe, medium-sized, the exact same kind Robert had kept in the restaurant office. I stopped moving. Could not breathe right. Is that? Emily started. Same kind, I said. My voice came out strange. Same as the one he emptied. The irony hit me like something solid. He had stolen from a safe, kept everything in another one. All these years. There was a piece of paper taped to the top. I stepped closer. Numbers written in Michael's handwriting. 0822880. His birthday, August 22nd, 1980. Numbers I would know anywhere. I reached for the dial. My hands were shaking, but I needed to do this myself. Right to 08. Left past 0 to 22. Right to 80. The handle gave. The door swung open with that familiar metallic groan I had not heard in decades. Inside were stacks of cash, rubber-banded, organized by denomination. Each stack had a paper band with a year written in black marker. The first few were from right after he left. Then they marched forward through the years, early 2000s, the 10s, the 20s. The most recent stack marked just months ago. Help me, I said to Emily. My voice was shaking now, too. We pulled the stacks out together, set them on the concrete floor. Neither of us spoke, just the sound of paper rustling, rubber bands snapping as we organized them. 50s in one pile, hundreds in another, 20s stacked neatly. Count with me, I said. Emily pulled out her phone, opened the calculator. I counted out loud. She tallied stack after stack after stack. 418,000, she said. Finally, I sat down on the concrete floor. The bills surrounded me like evidence. More than he had taken, more than the $300,000 that had been in Robert's safe. He had added to it, saved more. Year after year, adding more. He paid it back, I said. The words came out broken. Every penny and then some. I started crying. I had not cried in years. Not real crying, not like this. But I could not stop it. Hot tears, angry and confused, and something else I did not have a name for. Emily sat down next to me on the concrete. She did not touch me, just sat there waiting. When I could breathe again, I looked back at the safe. There was more inside. 3 cardboard boxes stacked behind where the money had been. "Help me with these," I said. The boxes were labeled in Michael's handwriting. All 3 said Emily. We pulled the first one out, opened it. Photographs, hundreds of them. Emily as a baby, tiny and red-faced in a hospital blanket. Emily as a toddler with a gap-toothed smile, holding a stuffed rabbit. School pictures. Year after year. Kindergarten, 1st grade, 5th grade high school. I pulled one out. Emily, maybe 7 years old, standing in front of a birthday cake. Michael was behind her, hands on her shoulders, both smiling, but his eyes looked sad. Even then. I turned it over, his handwriting on the back, her 7th birthday. "She asked about you today." I did not know what to say. Another photo. Emily in a pink dress, Michael in a suit beside her, a quinceañera on the back. "She is 15. She looks like you when you smile." I kept pulling photos out. Emily's whole life documented. Every birthday, every holiday, every ordinary moment. His handwriting on each one, marking the date, writing small notes. "First steps today. Lost her first tooth. Honor roll again. You would be proud." Emily was crying now too. Seeing herself through her father's eyes, seeing how carefully he had saved every moment. The second box had folders inside, each one labeled with a different year spanning over a decade. I did not open them yet. I did not have the strength. The third box was covered with a blanket, something underneath. We lifted the blanket together. A small wooden box, old, worn at the corners. I opened it slowly. Inside was a watch. Men's watch, silver, the kind you wind. The face was scratched, the band worn. It had stopped working, frozen at some random time. I picked it up, turned it over. There was an inscription on the back, worn but readable. "To Michael, graduate 1996. Love, Dad." Robert had given this to Michael when he graduated high school. I remembered the day Robert had saved for months to buy it. There was a photograph underneath the watch. The 3 of us standing in front of the restaurant. I was younger, Robert's arm around my waist. Michael between us, grinning at the camera. We looked happy. A note was folded at the bottom of the box. Michael's handwriting. The watch was mine. Dad gave it to me when I graduated. I wore it every day, even after it stopped working. The photo was in my wallet. It is all I had left of you both. I held the watch in my palm. Michael had worn this, carried it with him into exile, kept it even when it broke. His only connection to the father he had lost and the mother he had abandoned. At the bottom of the safe, underneath where all the money had been stacked, was one more thing. A sealed envelope thick with pages, my name written across it in Michael's careful handwriting. Helen Grant. Emily saw me looking at it. "He wrote that the week before he died," she said quietly. "He made me promise to give it to you. Said everything you need to know is in there." I picked it up. The paper was slightly yellowed at the edges, the seal still intact. I could feel pages inside. Many pages, not just a note. This was it. The truth he had promised. The reason he had left. The explanation for everything around me. Money he had saved for decades. Photos of a granddaughter I had never known. A watch he had worn every day. A gift from his father. Evidence of a life I had missed completely. Emily was watching me waiting. "I need to read this alone," I said. She nodded. "I understand." We packed everything back into the safe except the letter and one of the folders. Emily helped me load the money back in stack by stack. Neither of us spoke. The photographs went back in their box. The watch and the photo stayed in the small wooden box, and I held that in one hand. We locked the unit, walked back to the car in silence. I drove Emily to the hostel downtown. She gathered her backpack, hesitated with her hand on the door handle. "Will you be okay?" she asked. "I do not know," I said. It was the truth. She nodded. "I will wait to hear from you." Then she was gone, disappearing through the hostel's front door. I sat in my car for a moment, the letter on the passenger seat beside me, the wooden box with Michael's watch in my lap. Everything felt heavier than it should. I drove home. The evening traffic was light. By the time I got back to my apartment, the sun was setting, painting everything orange and pink through my kitchen window. I sat at the table, made tea, even though I did not want it. Just needed something to do with my hands while I stared at that envelope. My name on the front in Michael's handwriting. Helen Grant. Just my name, nothing else. Finally, I opened it. 6 sheets of paper written front and back, dated 1 week before he died. His handwriting was shaky in places, like his hands had not been steady. I could picture him in a hospital bed dying, trying to get this all down before he could not anymore. I started reading. "Mom, I do not know how to start this. I have written it in my head 1,000 times. Never found the right words. Still have not. But I am dying, and I am running out of time to be a coward. You think I stole from you and Dad? You are right. I did. But not for the reason you think. Spring of that year, Jason Cole came to me with a job. We had been friends since high school. You remember him? He said he had sidework deliveries, paid cash, $2,500 for one night. I wanted a car. Wanted to stop borrowing Dad's truck. Wanted to pay for it myself, not ask you guys for help. You had both worked so hard already. Jason said it was easy. Just packages from Tucson to Nogales. He had done it before. No problems. Made it sound simple. I should have asked what was in the packages. Should have questioned why someone pays $2,500 for a delivery, but I wanted that car, and I did not ask. We picked up the package on a Wednesday night. Heavy box taped shut. Drove toward the border. Stopped at a gas station off the 805. I went inside for water. Came back to Jason Cole freaking out. Car window smashed. Package gone. That is when he told me, cocaine 6 kilos worth $300,000. The package we just lost. I could not breathe, could not think, kept saying, "What did you do? What did you get us into?" Less than 2 hours later, they found us. 3 guys pulled up while we were still at the gas station. Jason knew them. They were not police. They took us to a house in Sierra Vista and explained very clearly. "We owe $300,000. We have 36 hours to bring it to Nogales in cash. If we do not, they will kill us both. Then visit our families." They said, "Your name, Mom," and they said the address of the restaurant, described what Dad looked like. They said, "Do not go to police." They had people everywhere. They would know, and everyone we loved would die. I believed them. I was 22 and terrified, and I believed every word. I knew where Dad kept the money. Knew the combination because he taught it to me. Knew exactly how much was there. I told myself I was protecting you. That if I did not pay them, they would kill all of us. That I would pay it back somehow. Work for the rest of my life. But at least you would be alive. That night, I went to the restaurant, let myself in the back, opened the safe. All those envelopes, years of saving Robert's careful handwriting on each one. I took all of it. I could not close the safe. Tried 3 times. My hands were shaking too bad. Left it open. Next day, Jason and I drove to Nogales. Met them at a warehouse. Handed over the cash. They counted it. Then said, "You two stay in Mexico. You cross back to the States. We will assume you talked to police. Your families become problems." We were trapped. Stay in Nogales or get everyone killed. That afternoon, I called the restaurant to explain. Line was busy. Tried again. Busy. Third time, a stranger answered. Said the restaurant was closed. Emergency. I found out 2 days later. Robert found the empty safe. Heart attack. Died in the hospital. I killed him, Mom. I emptied that safe and his heart could not take it. He died thinking I betrayed him, thinking I stole from my own family. How do you come back from that? How do you call and say, "Sorry, I killed Dad, but I had a good reason"? I could not. I was a coward. I stayed in Nogales, got a construction job, lived cheap, saved everything, opened a safe, started filling it every week with more money, labeled each stack with the year, met Emily's mother, had Emily, mother left, raised Emily alone, told her about you constantly. Every time I had a chance to save money, I did. Every time I thought about spending it on something nice, something easier, I saw Dad on that floor. The safe filled up. Years passed. Emily grew. I kept saving. Sometimes I crossed the border, came to Tucson, watched you from a distance, made sure you were okay. When I saw you needed help, I helped the only way I could, anonymously, so you would not know it was me. I kept thinking I would come back someday. Explain. Face you. But every year that passed made it harder. Then I got sick. Cancer doctor said 6 months. I made it almost a year. The last few months, I knew I was dying. I wrote this letter trying to get everything down. Then one night in the hospital, I told Emily made her promise to find you. The money in the safe is yours. All of it. It was always yours. I know it does not fix anything, does not bring back Robert, does not give you back those years, but it is all I have. I spent my whole life trying to pay back one terrible night. I am sorry, Mom. Sorry I took the money. Sorry I ran. Sorry I was too afraid to face you. Sorry you had to lose your husband and your son in the same week. I love you. Always did. I wish I could have told Robert. I am sorry. Michael. I finished reading. My hands were shaking. The pages were wet where my tears had fallen. I sat in my dark kitchen. The streetlight came through the window, making everything look cold and strange. The tea I had made had gone untouched, probably cold by now. Understanding did not erase the pain, but it changed it into something different, something more complicated. I remembered the folder I had brought home from the storage unit, one of the ones labeled with a year. I had grabbed it without really looking, just needed something to carry besides the letter. I opened it now on the kitchen table. The first paper was an eviction notice. My name on it, address of an apartment I had lived in years ago, 3 months behind on rent. The amount owed was circled in red, $2,600. The next paper was a wire transfer receipt from Nogales. Same date as the eviction notice. Exact amount, $2,600 sent to my landlord's name. I remembered that it was maybe 10 years ago. I had been working 2 jobs, but one of them cut my hours. I could not make rent. The eviction notice came. Then 3 days later, my landlord called confused, said someone had paid my rent. All of it, plus the late fees. Would not tell me who. I had thought it was an accounting error, some kind of miracle. I had been too tired and desperate to question it. It was Michael. The next set of papers was medical bills from my appendectomy. I remembered that too. Woke up in the hospital emergency surgery, no insurance. The bill was over $9,500. I had cried looking at it, knowing I would be paying it off for years. Then a nurse came in, said the bill had been covered. Anonymous donation to the hospital's charity fund, specifically marked for my account. I had thought it was the hospital's program. Thank God. Never questioned it. It was Michael. More papers. A mechanic's receipt for transmission repair. Want $400. My car had died. I could not afford to fix it. Was going to sell it for parts. Then the mechanic called, said someone had already paid. Would not say who. I remembered crying in that parking lot thinking I had finally gotten lucky for once. It was Michael. There were more lists of smaller transfers. Always when I had been between jobs, or in some kind of crisis, mysterious envelopes of cash that appeared in my mailbox with no return address, just enough to cover groceries, utilities, small emergencies. I had thought some were from church charity, some from confused billing, some from luck. All of it was Michael. He had been watching me for years, crossing the border, tracking my life, seeing when I struggled sending money, when he could helping from the shadows. I spread all the evidence across my kitchen table, receipts, letters, proof of anonymous help spanning over a decade. Part of me felt strange about it. He had been following me, watching my life without my knowing. Part of me felt something else, something I did not have a name for yet. Every time I thought I was surviving alone through my own strength, he had been there, silently trying to fix what he had broken. He stole everything, but he paid it back. He disappeared, but he never really left. He could not face me, but he never stopped trying to help. Both things were true at the same time. There was no clean way to resolve that. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Did you read it? I looked at the letter on my table. The evidence, the watch in its small wooden box, all of it sitting in the light from the street lamp. I texted back. Yes. 3 dots appeared. Then, can we talk tomorrow? Yes, I wrote. I knew what she wanted to ask. Can you forgive him? I did not know the answer yet. I gathered all the papers, stacked them carefully next to the letter. Michael had spent his entire adult life trying to atone for one terrified night when he was 22 years old. I had spent just as long hating him for abandoning me. Now I knew the truth. I just did not know what to do with it. The next morning, I met Emily at a small cafe near downtown. She was already there when I arrived. 2 coffees on the table waiting. I slid into the booth across from her. Neither of us knew how to start. You read everything, she asked finally. Everything. The letter, the evidence, all of it. We both sipped our coffee. It was too hot, but I drank it anyway, needing something to do. Do you believe him? Emily's voice was careful. I thought about it. Really thought about it. I believe it happened the way he said. I believe he was terrified. But you are still angry. He did not trust you enough to tell the truth. Yes. We could have run hidden, gone to the police, something. Emily nodded slowly. He said the same thing in the hospital, that his biggest mistake was thinking he had to handle it alone. When did he tell you exactly? I asked. Emily set down her coffee. The last week he had been in the hospital for 5 days. They had given him so much morphine, he barely knew where he was most of the time. But one night, around 2 a.m, he woke up completely lucid, grabbed my hand so hard it hurt. I watched them for a long time before answering. I do not know if forgiveness is the right word. What word would be right? Understanding. Maybe acceptance. I looked back at her. I understand why he did it. I accept that he tried to make it right. Is that enough? I saw Robert's eyes looking back at me from Emily's face, Michael's jawline. 3 generations sitting in this booth. It has to be, I said. He is gone. I cannot forgive him to his face, cannot yell at him, cannot hug him, cannot do anything except decide how to move forward. Emily's shoulders relaxed slightly, like she had been holding her breath. Can I still visit you? She asked. Even if you cannot forgive him, you are not him. You are you. I reached across the table, touched her hand briefly. Yes, you can visit. Over the following weeks, we met regularly, sometimes at my apartment, sometimes at coffee shops, once at a park, where we walked for an hour without saying much. We traded stories. Emily told me about Michael teaching her to ride a bike, how patient he had been, how he had helped with her math homework, even when he was exhausted from work, how he would make breakfast every Sunday, the same recipes he learned working in the restaurant with Robert. I told her about Michael as a little boy, how he had loved helping in the restaurant kitchen, standing on a stool next to Robert, to watch him cook, how his laugh used to fill the whole dining room, how he had been gentle with the stray cats that hung around the back door. We were building something. Not what was lost, but something new. I decided to keep the money. All of it. Moved it from the safe to a bank account. First time in my life, I had seen that many numbers after my name. I quit one of my bookkeeping clients. Started working less. Had time to breathe. First, I fixed things in my old apartment that had been broken for years. The dripping faucet, the cabinet door that would not close. Small repairs I had been putting off because they cost money. Then I bought a reliable car that did not make scary noises. Good coffee instead of the cheapest kind. Stopped checking prices at the grocery store. Then I used the rest for a down payment on a small house. 2 bedrooms, a yard-safe neighborhood. Nothing fancy but mine. 1 bedroom for me, 1 for when Emily visited. I planted a garden, tomatoes, herbs, flowers, things that grew. Set up an account for Emily for school, for whatever she needed. She was in nursing school, working part-time. The money would help. One weekend, Emily drove me to Nogales. We crossed the border together, something I had not done in decades. She drove through streets I did not recognize to a small cemetery on the edge of the city. Michael was buried there. Simple headstone. Michael Pierce, beloved father. Emily stayed back, giving me space. I stood at the grave alone. I had not prepared what to say, had not rehearsed, but the words came anyway. I read your letter, I said quietly. I know what happened now. I understand you were scared. A bird sang somewhere nearby. Traffic noise from the street, but you should have told us. We could have faced it together. You did not have to carry it alone. I paused. You carried it alone for all those years. That was your choice. I spent just as long being angry. That was mine. I looked at his name carved in stone. Michael, my son, gone before I could see him again. I cannot say I forgive you. That feels too simple for something this complicated, but I accept what you did. The stealing, and the paying back the running, and the watching all of it. I knelt down, brushed some dirt off the stone. You raised a good daughter. She is smart, kind, strong. You did that right. Robert would have liked her. Would have been proud of her. I stopped. Would have been proud of you for that part. Maybe. I placed the flowers I had brought. Simple bouquet from a market stall. Bright colors against the gray stone. Emily drove us back. We did not talk much. Some things do not need words. Back home, I hung photos on my living room wall. Found one of Michael when he was maybe 20 before everything fell apart. He was smiling, standing in the restaurant in his apron, holding a tray. Next to it, I hung Emily's graduation photo cap and gown, holding her diploma. Same smile. Family continuing. Different than before, but continuing. Emily started visiting every few weeks. We cooked together. I taught her how to make tamales the way Robert had taught me. Showed her how to spread the masa, how to fold the corn husks just right. She took notes on her phone, asked questions learned. We did not talk about Michael constantly, but he was there in the watch. I kept on my dresser, the one Robert gave him in Emily's laugh, that sounded exactly like his in the money that let me live, instead of just survive. One evening, Emily came over to make tamales for an upcoming holiday. We stood in my kitchen, masa spread on the counter, music playing softly on my phone. I watched her work, careful and focused. Saw 3 generations in her face, Robert's eyes, Michael's determined expression, something of myself in the way she held her head. I thought about Michael at 22, making a desperate choice in a moment of terror. I thought about Robert dying before he knew the truth. I thought about myself surviving alone for so long, not as alone as I had believed. I do not know if this is forgiveness, but it is acceptance. He paid back every penny. He watched over me when I did not know. He raised his daughter to be kind. That has to count for something. Emily looked up from the tamales like this. I checked her work. Perfect. You are a natural. She smiled. Robert's smile, Michael's smile passed down. Outside my kitchen window, the garden I had planted was starting to bloom. Small green shoots pushing up through the soil, growing toward the light. We kept working hands, moving in the familiar rhythm, making something together, building something new from everything that had broken. So that is my story. I would love to hear what you think. If you were in my place, could you have forgiven Michael after learning the truth? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more stories like mine.